Well, I've got a rather important report to share with you guys today. Many in the Democrat Party are now screaming to burn the system down or destroy the system altogether. Now that Donald Trump has taken the executive office and Republicans have swept both the House and the Senate, not to mention we've got a conservative majority now in the Supreme Court. You know, the bottom line here is Americans are pissed off. They are finished. They are done. And now the Democrats, I think some of them are realizing that, but other Democrats are literally going all in on these radical left kind of style policies. And the truth is, the Democrats, many of them in their party, they're not about the Constitution and the betterment of our country. They are literally destroying our country from within and have been a party all about division while claiming that the other side is going to kill democracy and we're all going to go to these concentration camps, if you will, if Donald Trump gets in, which were complete and bogus lies. But I really want to show you in today's broadcast how radical they have become and what the average American person is seeing. For starters, we all know one of the big reasons that we had our red waves is, quite frankly, because of the economy. For the average person who's not paying attention to politics, they look at what's going on in our United States economy and they're like, crap, everything costs more. I don't care what the mainstream media is telling me, because they've been lying for a while, but I can't afford groceries, my car bill, my gas bill, my rent, everything's gone up and I'm dying, right? Financially speaking. But regarding Democrats being a threat to democracy on the financial aspect, everything that they have done financially has put us more in the hole, more trillions and trillions of dollars in debt. And more beholden, if you will, to international conglomerates like China, who they've been openly selling a lot of our land to. And quite frankly, Republicans are guilty of that too, as much as I hate to say it. But they have been all about getting everyone on these social welfare programs and making everything free when it's not free. It always becomes a burden and we always have massive inflation and more taxes coming out. So that's one. The second thing, and I think that this is really huge, is the Democrats have been massively attacking our freedom of speech. Take a listen.
There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
We will hold social media platforms accountable for the hate infiltrating their platforms, because they have a responsibility to help fight against this threat to our democracy.
But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrent.
Our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence.
In other words, our First Amendment right is a massive stumbling block to the Democrat Party. That was Hillary Clinton, John Kerry, Tim Walz, and Kamala Harris, all stating very clearly that they want speech policed by the United States government, and more specifically by their administrations in the Democrat Party. This has been ever so clear when the Biden and Harris administration weaponized agencies like the FBI to work jointly with social media websites like Facebook and Instagram and Google and YouTube in order to silence information that they didn't want out. Hate speech and disinformation like the Hunter Biden laptop story and information on the United States election and COVID-19. Not to mention, Joe Biden tried to put together a disinformation and governance board that got so much public outcry that he had to shut the entire thing down. Well, the American people are watching, and they watched as our freedom of speech got ripped out from underneath us. Now, not only that, but our third one here, as they made our schools and campuses indoctrination centers. They literally tried to infuse critical race theory in our schools, and they've infused it in our colleges and our schools, by the way. This is Reason.com. Is critical race theory taught in K-12 in schools? The NEA says yes, and that it should be. Well, obviously, this ticked off a lot of parents, and they started attending all these school board meetings. Well, when the parents went to these school board meetings, finding out that their kids were being indoctrinated with anti-American rhetoric and anti-white rhetoric. I think it's a very racist curriculum. This enraged parents, and they started getting involved at the school level. And then they found out that this was put forward by the Biden administration. And hey, by the way, the Biden administration also weaponized the FBI to go against those parents who were against critical race theory in the schools, saying, hey, you should be monitoring these parents. Well, the parents saw that, and the parents got upset, and the parents decided to change their vote this election to more Republican. And so they have been completely destroying their campaign. Number 4, and this is a huge one, the media has become the propaganda arm of the Democrat globalist and quite frankly, even the Harris-Biden administration. Now, the clip that I'm going to show you shows you the level of loyalty, shall I say, that they have to the Democrat Party. And I've only chosen like 3 or 4. There's literally probably thousands of these that I could grab through the years. But I want you to see the blatant bias for the Democrat Party. Take a watch.
I do want to very quickly send a quick message to all the pollsters, the election pollsters. Blow me. I don't ever want to from you again, ever. I don't ever want to hear, we've corrected for the overcorrection of the voters. You don't know shit about shit. And I don't care for you.
We now are just another one in the list of countries that has decided to, hey, what the heck? Let's try the strongman thing. Let's let democracy go. Let's put in an all-powerful guy instead, see how it goes. There are many more countries in the world governed by that kind of a system than there are governed by ours. We are the only 248-year-old multiracial, pluralistic democracy in the world. And shall we keep it? A lot of our fellow Americans say we shouldn't. Now we know. Now we know for sure.
To me, I'm mystified in some ways, simply because we're talking about a twice impeached, 4 times indicted, convicted on 34 felony counts former president. That's one bucket. Then in another bucket, you have all of the things he's been saying on the campaign trail that gets to the decency that the woman was talking about in that last report, and how she wanted to vote for Vice President Harris because she didn't like that Madison Square Garden rally. I am mystified that despite all of that, he's gaining support compared to 2020.
Black voters came through for Kamala Harris. White women voters did not. That is what it appears happened in that state, is that if you can't flip enough white women, and we've talked about this on this set numerous times, is that you have a state where you've got a 6-week abortion or a 12-week abortion. I think theirs might be 12 weeks. Yep. But it's a state where women lost their reproductive rights, where there was a very heavy push to get women to focus on not putting in place, re-electing, putting back into the White House the person who was responsible for taking those rights away and restoring them. But that message obviously was not enough to get enough white women to vote for Vice President Harris.
So every clip you saw there was like, I'm mystified, I'm bummed, I'm sad that Kamala Harris didn't win. If they were a true media network, they would be like, oh, this is what the American people voted. I'm proud of it. Not bad Americans for voting for Donald Trump, which is basically they were out there giving a beating to everyone who voted Donald Trump in. Well, if you were truly an even playing field as a media network, you wouldn't be saying that. And the other thing that I want you guys to pay attention to in the future with these media personnel is notice how they treat Democrats over Republicans. When a Democrat comes in, they're basically, excuse my French, but kissing their asses. When a Democrat comes in, they're like, oh, you make me feel so good, you're doing so well, and they make it more geared towards them. But at any time a Republican's on, especially Donald J. Trump or any of his campaign members, it completely shifts in an entirely new direction. In fact, to make matters worse, I want you to see this. MRC Newsbusters. TV hits Trump with 85% negative news and 78% positive for Kamala Harris. This is not an even playing field. So they're going to make it all positive for Kamala Harris and all negative for Donald Trump in order to sway your vote. And guess what? They got the big family-friendly middle finger from the American people, and they can no longer be trusted. They have broken all trust, and they have proven themselves to be agents of the Democrat Party. And that's just the fact of it. Number 5, they also tried, and this is a big one, I believe, they tried to secure a one-party state through illegal immigration, right? They allowed millions upon millions of people to come across the border, and they literally turned a blind eye to it. Take a look at this. Startling statistic fact sheets, and this is on homeland.house.gov, okay? Startling stats fact sheet. Fiscal year 2024 ends with nearly 3 million inadmissible encounters, 10.8 million total encounters since basically Joe Biden has got in office. Then we also have this, wrapping things up. This is on oversight.house.gov. Biden administration's catch and release operation has inflamed the raging crisis at the border. In other words, this is something that they have been working on, just catching and release. And of course, we have the border bait and switch. This is on cityjournal.org. The Biden administration is using misleading statistics and rhetorics to hide the role in perpetrating the crisis. The Biden administration and the mainstream media continue to lie to us about what was happening. And here's what it says. During the VP debate, Tim Walz claimed, look, border crossings are down compared to when Trump left office. Similarly, CNN, an arm of the Democrat Party, reports migrant crossings at the U.S.-Mexico border remain at their lowest levels in 2020, while a USA headline reads, illegal immigration at the U.S. border drops to lowest since 2022. These claims are true only if one does not count it as crossing when an illegal alien arrives at the port of entry along the border and is subsequently released into the U.S. because the Biden administration is now funneling huge numbers of illegal aliens toward ports of entry with the help of its CBP One app. Encounters elsewhere along the border are down, yet there are still far more aliens entering the country each month than there were under Trump or even Barack Obama. The Biden administration continues to perpetrate the border crisis while simultaneously trying to mask that crisis with subtle policy change and deceptive phrasing. The American people were onto it. They saw it. They saw the crime increasing in their areas. They saw crime exploding. And they know that you opened a CPB One app, an app which illegal immigrants can go to, fill out information, and the Obama administration would take everything from there. So though they don't physically cross, now they have an app which they can do it from. And there was still a crisis at the border as a result of that, not to mention all the fancy stuff that the American people saw that they were getting while veterans and homeless people were going ignored. Here we have New York Post, NYC hotels that converted into migrant shelters set to rake in over $1 billion in your taxpayer dollars, according to documents. AP, migrants in New York City will receive prepaid debit cards to the tune of thousands, by the way, not credit cards, for designated goods. Then we have Democrats, and this is the National Review, can't quit fighting photo ID for votes. Now, that's the other part of this. Democrats were giving all these goodies to these illegal immigrants, flying them wherever the heck they wanted, right? And they didn't care that crime increased in the United States of America. They're saying, oh, it's not because of that or whatever. And then they lied about the statistics, and then it came out later, and the American people saw that too. But not only that, but they were avidly against these voter ID laws. And the only reason you would be against voter ID is if you want illegal immigrants to vote. That's it. And this is why the GOP and congressional leaders were like, hey, let's make an ID. You have to have an ID for everything. Why don't we have an ID to vote? And by the way, all the areas that Kamala Harris won, all the states that she won, none of them required voter ID. There may be one or two exceptions, but the majority of them did not require voter ID. It's weird, right? To say the least. But I believe they want to secure that one-party state through illegal immigration because illegal immigrants do vote Democrats because Democrats give them all the handouts. And it's really sad. Number 6. They also tried to push gender pronouns on all of us, right? All this gender neutral. You're going to use everybody's pronouns. And if you don't use their pronouns, then you are a misogynist, racist, pig, whore, whatever they want to label you, right? And that was massive. That pissed off a lot of people. But then they went and took it even a step further. Look, by the way, if you want to call yourself he, him, her, they, them, great, more power to you. You're able to do that. I don't have to be forced to do that, right? But you're more than welcome to do that. But then they took it a step further and they started wanting to gender transition and even allow the literal chemical castration of little kids to transition from females into males or males into females or whatever. Look, these kids don't know what the hell they're thinking, right? They're under 18 years. If you want to do that and you're over 18, more power to you. You're an adult. You can figure it out. But if you're under 18 years old, you can't vote. You can't get a tattoo. You can't drink alcohol, because that's pretty bad. And or smoke cigarettes and all this stuff that you can't do. Can't drive a car. Yet you want the decision that they can castrate themselves. A lot of American parents looked in on that and said, hey, there's an issue with that. And then, by the way, this little a-hole here, and this is on National Review, Newsome signs law barring schools from requiring that parents be informed of child gender transition. So Newsome comes out and says, and other Democrats, parents don't even have to know. Well, parents, again, saw that and they're like, screw you, Democrats and independents specifically. And they're like, you know what? I don't want to have that kind of information kept from me. These are really radical policies we're talking about. And then people saw how the Democrats were pushing men in women's sports. Women were getting hurt, by the way. We have quite a few women that were hurt, and men were starting to win all the things again. Where's the freaking feminists on this? And the American people saw that and they're like, nope, I've had too much of that. And I don't want anything to do with that. And then they went on and tried to force Christian doctors to perform these kinds of castration surgeries, right? If somebody didn't want to perform this gender surgery, they're like, nope, we think you should perform it anyway. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want a doctor doing something on me that they didn't want to do. I'm just saying. But either way, that is the kind of stuff that we are facing, right? And then they even tried to put these DEI and critical race theories and all of that in our schools. Number 7, they weren't happy with limited abortion. Some states limit the abortion to so many weeks. Instead, they wanted to take a really radical view on extreme abortion. And many of the Democrats basically kept their mouths shut, and many didn't, and saying, oh, we're okay with abortion to full term. Now, I'll be very frank with you. I'm okay with abortion through a certain number of weeks, like 12, 15 weeks. Great. You have plenty of time to decide at that point whether you're going to get rid of the baby or not. You should already know by then. And there's already exceptions if the mother or the baby's life is in danger. You can do that whenever. No state doesn't allow that, right? Same with if there's incest or rape or anything like that, right? But they've got that thing. And Democrats weren't happy with this. They called us immoral and racist. And in fact, Kamala Harris wouldn't even say openly the restrictions that she had on abortion. She didn't put a number on it. Here we have the National Review. Kamala Harris won't say if she supports any restrictions on abortion. And America saw that. In fact, they even labeled these people, labeled Republicans who are anti-abortion as extremists in their new ad. And of course, the fake news media is saying, oh, that's not true, but I'm going to show you it's true. House Democrats label Republicans anti-abortion extremists in new ad. Now, here's the actual ad. And I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's a whole minute and it's over, but it goes through all these conservatives. You can kind of see it and what their view is on abortion and the whole 9 yards. And then at the very end of it, right, it plays.
That we can change public opinion.
Shows this. Anti-abortion, House GOP, anti-abortion extremists. And you can see this is a DCCC video. So they definitely called us extremists. Not only that, but let me show you this video on Kamala Harris and how, well, there shouldn't be any restrictions, say, for a Christian doctor on abortions. Take a watch.
What concessions would be on the table? Religious exemptions, for example, is that something that you would consider?
I don't think we should be making concessions when we're talking about a fundamental freedom to make decisions about your own body.
So in other words, no concessions on abortion. You have to do it under all circumstances. Again, I don't want a doctor working on me that doesn't want to perform the abortion. It's like if a doctor didn't want to do some kind of surgery on me, fill in the blank, I wouldn't want that doctor to do it. I'd go find another one. But yet they want to force this on people. This is just extreme. Number 8, the Democrats talked about and want to actually pack the Supreme Court. These are all very destructive moves and very tyrannical moves from the Democrat Party. And let me just show you this NBC News report. Democrats to introduce a bill to expand the Supreme Court from 9 to 13 justices. Now, this was back in 2021, and they have been talking about it since. And they have been talking about expanding that. Not only that, but they wanted another extreme thing, number 9. They wanted to end the filibuster. Now they're regretting that, right? But take a look at this. Harris calls for end to Senate filibuster to restore U.S. abortion rights. So they literally called for the end of the filibuster. Not only that, but number 10, they wanted to abolish the Electoral College. And all 3 extreme, the very way that we do our things, how to finally abolish the Electoral College. Very, very extreme. And then the 11th thing here, and I'm not going to get too much into this because this has just been ever so obvious. If you guys have been watching me on Restrict a Republic, I hope you guys go there. But they politicized the prosecution of conservatives and Donald J. Trump. They made it an issue and part of their regime to go after their political opposition. And guess what? The American people saw all of it. They saw all of it, and they're done with it. They are the ones that are usurping democracy. They have weaponized all these agencies, and now they're getting mad at Donald J. Trump because he wants to put these agencies back on the right path. He wants to remove the security clearance from the 51 IC personnel who lied about Hunter's laptop. Yeah, they should have it pulled. They should be done. He wants to fire the people that were involved in things like the Russia collusion, who lied under oath, and all of these things. These people should not be in office, and there's so much more. This isn't about putting loyalists in, whatever the Democrats try to say, because that's what they have done. They own everything right now. The colleges, the schools, the music industry, Hollywood, are 3-letter agencies, like pretty much all the 3-letter agencies, and that's not enough for them. They want to control it all. This is what tyrants do and what they're all about. In fact, let me show you this WND article, and it was written by Bob Ernol, and I'm sorry if I butchered your last name there, but burn the system down. Democrats now facing charges. They're the ones trying to destroy democracy. And I believe that many voters were repulsed by the Democrats, and this is a huge one too, simply making Harris the nominee after all the primaries were over. This was the candidate who could not garner any appreciable votes in the prior presidential primaries before being made VP by Biden. Now, the idea is that she would be elevated by the unilateral act of Biden. And what he's talking about here, and I did a report on this already on Restricted Republic, is there are Democrats out there saying to Joe Biden, say you're unfit and make Kamala Harris the president right now so we can give a big fat middle finger to Donald J. Trump, and he'd have to redo all his MAGA hats and all of his campaign stuff, because he couldn't be called the 47th president. He would have to be called the 48th president. And these are the kinds of things that dictators do. Now, I don't believe Joe Biden will do this because he hates Kamala Harris, right? So I don't see that happening. However, they're trying to destroy democracy. They installed and they initiated a coup on President Biden and installed Harris as the next candidate. This pissed off a lot of their own personnel. But WND goes on to say, and this is by Jonathan Turley, the Shapiro Professor of Public Interest Law at George Washington University. He said, democracy appears to be losing its appeal on the left. After campaigning on panic politics and predicting the imminent death of democracy, some on the left are now calling to burn the system down in light of Republicans not only taking both the House and the White House, but Trump likely winning the popular vote. He pointed out that it is ironic that Democratic politicians and pundits repeated the mantra that if we did not elect Harris, this might be our last election, he explained. After losing that election, democracy appears to be the problem. Now they're changing their view. The majority of Americans voting for Trump have been called anti-American by Governor Hochul. Other politicians and pundits have labeled them racist, misogynist, and weaklings seeking domination by strongmen and bullies. Now, as the protesters are calling for a demolition of the system as a whole, and figureheads are joining in. They want a demolition of the whole system because Donald Trump won the election. And they're scared because their mainstream media figureheads keep lying to them about what Donald Trump is all about. And some of them actually believe this rhetoric. But the truth of the matter is, we're not the threat to democracy. Republicans are not. It's been Democrats, and it has for a very long time. Other words, they wouldn't have weaponized all these agencies. They wouldn't be saying and doing the things that they're doing. You see, because the average liberal doesn't care. They just want control of everything, and they'll stop at nothing to get it. And that's why we have gotten so far as a country. Anyhow, I love you guys. I know I went a little later than normal, but please don't forget to check out my sponsor, Noble Gold Investments. I want to encourage you with the economy, going up and down with this presidential election. You want to make sure that you have something stable. And I want to encourage you to check out Noble Gold Investments by going to lisahavengold.com. And they're going to send you this free gold and silver investment guide. You just fill out this information, click get my free guide, and they're going to send it to you. But the bottom line is, with this instability in the market, you want to make sure that you are diversifying and you are hedging your bets in the right way, because you never know what can happen. And Donald Trump has a lot of work to do. And by the way, silver and gold have always been on the right path, have really been doing some amazing things, especially with these solar panels and stuff that they have been installing, which has been increasing the price of silver. But please diversify yourself. Don't get stuck on the US dollar. Make sure you have a 401k. If you don't, give them a call at 1-877-646-5347. And if you don't have that, you can also, or if you have that, you can convert that, which I would recommend, into a 401k into a Roth IRA, and you can back that by gold, silver, precious metals. So give them a call. And by the way, make sure you mention my name, because right now they are giving away the up to 10 of these 1 ounce silver Trump coins with any approved plan, or a 10 ounce silver American flag there. So make sure you mention my name. But with that, there is always a risk to investing. There's never a guarantee. If you want more information, click that more button or click the link in the description box below. Anyhow, with all of that, I love you all. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.